Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show. Prison is a complicated place. The maneuverings that take place in here is enough to make most people go crazy. Real talk. Now, when you got a corrections officer that's participating in the stuff that goes on in here, it's on another level. Because that individual has the power to manipulate the moves in here, to manipulate what happens to situations and the outcomes of those situations. And it'll all look like it's supposed to be that way. When another inmate calls another inmate a snitch, it's serious. When an officer or staff person calls an inmate a snitch, it's dangerous, deadly, dangerous. The power that people in authority have in a facility can't be measured. It can't be quantified. People don't have any idea how easy it is for something to happen to you when you find yourself in a situation that's being manipulated by somebody that works here. Now here's the thing. You have crooked cops all over the place. It just happens. But the majority, as they always say, the majority of the people that do their job in law enforcement, they're good people. I'll admit that. But the issue is not about the good people. It's about the culture that's created that will allow for a bad one to flourish within that the system, to be able to use and manipulate the system in a way that can enrich them, empower them, and oppress others. And this story is about, you know how I do, y'all. I change the name to protect the guilty. You know how I get down. This story is about a man named Sergeant Smith. And he had a couple of guys that were locked up that worked with him. And their names, we're going to call them Jay, and the other one is going to be called Ryan. Okay? Now, Jay and Ryan, they had some very, very good jobs as far as positioning is concerned. And what I mean by that is that Ryan, he worked as a shoe shine man. Now, I know that might sound demeaning in this day and time, right? But see, a shoe shine man in prison is in position to, let me tell you what they do. A shoe shine man shines the shoes of the staff people, not inmates, staff people that work here. And that person may find themselves in a position to shine the warden's shoes or boots, or one of the officers or captains, lieutenants. Anybody that works here can have their shoes shined by the shoe shine man. Now, that puts that person in a position of being able to ear hustle and listen and see what's being said about certain people, because sometimes they sit around and they get comfortable and they start talking. You know what I mean? Or they might be on the phone talking to somebody, and that person is pretending to be able to just be shining the shoes, but the whole time he may be listening to that conversation. And all you need to hear is a little bit, and you can piece together the rest, especially if you know what's going on the compound. Now, as far as Jay, see, Jay's job, he worked as what we call a grievance clerk. And a grievance clerk is somebody that if a problem is going on, you get to file paperwork to express what your concerns are and why you think that's in violation of the policies that govern the prison, so that the warden or his grievance board can look at it first, and then if they don't resolve it, it goes to the warden for him to decide what happens. This helps keep a lot of trouble down in the prison, as opposed to people feeling like they've been done wrong and then they start fighting and rioting and stuff like that. The grievance process was created to give people an opportunity to voice their concerns about a particular situation. So this job put him in a position to where, he has some influence. It may be, hollow, but he has some influence with different people to shape outcomes and things like that, right? Now, the topic or the target, should I say, of this story is this guy named David. And of course, again, I want to reiterate, all of these names are not the actual names of the individuals that's involved in this situation. And I have to do that because David is the target here. David is the victim here. And you're going to see why as you listen to this show. Now check this out. When you get to a new prison, right, from any other prison, right, so it's a couple of things that you do when you first get there, right? And in most places, the first thing you want to find out is, where can I get a pocket knife? Why is that important? Well, to get a pocket knife, you know what I'm saying, that's what you need to protect yourself in a lot of places, right? Now, sad situation, hope that don't happen, you know what I'm saying, in most cases, but you ask those types of questions. And another thing that you ask is, depending on what you're doing and what circles you're running. And David ran in these particular circles. He said he wanted to know, where could he get a phone? Where could he get a phone? Because without a phone, the things that David did, he would not be able to do, right? David was a hustler. He got money. David was in the know. You know what I'm saying? David was a gang member that was doing his thing, and he needed to be able to communicate with all the other individuals around the state, excuse me, that he associated with in his particular organization. So he needed that. And he looked and he looked and he looked. And he couldn't find one, because at this particular institution, the way they had it segregated is a lot of the brothers that he was associated with in the same organization, they were on one end of the compound and he was on the other. And it was hard to get things moved around unless you knew people. And by him being new, he wanted to be low-key and remain low-key, because he didn't want people to know that he had a phone, not even his own kind. That's just being cautious in here. Being very, very cautious. And I respect that. I respect that. So, he found himself befriending this guy, right? That he had been told by a peon that he had been at other prisons with, that the particular guy, he had connections. Now, so when he approached this guy, he was talking to him, he asked him a few questions. This is after a couple of weeks of kicking it with him and working out with him and playing ball, you know, befriending him, you know what I'm saying, trying to figure out if this is the person that he can open up to just a little bit. Just a little bit. And he figured out he could. So he asked the guy that he had been working out with, he said, hey man, you know why I can get me a horn? And he looked at him, he said, really, this is not the place for that, but I do know somebody, but you got to watch him. Because that particular individual, he's suspect. He said, what you mean suspect? He said, man, look, he'll do a lot of things for a lot of people, and he got his hands in everything, but you got to watch him, because a lot of the people that he end up doing things with, they get popped. They get thrown to the wolves. And then he's real cool with Sergeant Smith. So David said, who is Sergeant Smith, and why is he, you know what I'm saying, somebody I should be concerned about? He said, well, Sergeant Smith, he got his hands in everything. He said, yeah. And then the dude, he looked back at David, and he said, yeah. So you got to watch Sergeant Smith. He'll play that role, but, you know, if you into that kind of stuff, he's straight. He'll be straight with you until he ain't straight with you no more. But them two dudes he hang with, Ryan and Jay, whatever they say, he going with that. So David was like, okay, I understand. I got you. So he said, do you want me to holler at anybody? David said, yeah, holler at him for me, though. Holler at Jay for me. Introduce me, matter of fact, and then I can take it from there. So he said, okay, I'll introduce y'all later on. And so later on that day, they were out back playing basketball. So he called Jay over while he was standing there talking to David. He said, hey, Jay, I want to introduce you to somebody, man, that's pretty cool. I've been hanging around with him for a couple of weeks now. His name David, man. So David reached out his hand and shook Jay's hand. He said, what's up, man? How you doing? And Jay was like, yeah, everything cool. He said, what's going on, though? So the dude that David had befriended, he said, man, he trying to get the hookup. So Jay immediately on top of it, he said, what you need, man? I got you. Whatever you need, I got you. If my dude here vouch for you, I got you. He vouching for you. So what you need? So David said, I need a horn, man. He said, oh, okay, I got you. He said, man, but it's gonna cost you $900. I give it to you for $900, man. He said, $900, that's kind of steep. He said, anybody else got to pay $12, man. He said, it's the touch. It's the touch. You want the touch, you got to pay $12. He said, but you can get it for $9. He said, how can you pay me? How you going to get it to me? He said, man, I have to call my gal and have my gal send it to you. You got somewhere I can send it? He was like, yeah, she can send it to my sister. And then we can take it from there. He said, but let me see the phone first, man. I need to see it. He said, all right, I tell you what. Early in the morning, because this was a Friday they were talking. So on the Saturday morning, he said, early in the morning, when we get up, meet me in the restroom. See, so he met him in the restroom. See, these restrooms are outside the cell. You had one in the cell, but they had a communal restroom outside the cell as well, where everybody could go without having to run back to the cell and get the officer to unlock the cell doors all the time. So they met in the restroom that morning. And he showed him a nice junk, AT&T, nice junk. So he said, all right, I'll take it. He said, let me see if it'll activate. He turned it on, this, and the third. And Jay went out and let him activate the thing. Did all of that right. And while he activated, he went on and hit his girl up right then and there and said, look, I need you to send 9 to this address. So Jay gave him the address. He put it in there. She said, I'm going to take care of it now. So David showed him what she said that. And then that was the end of that. Right? So after a couple of days, the money touched down. Everything was Gucci. Everything was good. Jay went on about his business, right? But see, what David didn't know, see, about 2 or 3 weeks before that, Jay had got caught up in some things. He got caught up in this thing. And the dude that introduced David to Jay, he didn't know this either, see. Because, see, Jay be moving a lot. And he's all over the compound. Like I told you, he deal with them grievances and stuff. So Jay was moving all over the compound one day, and he had a chip in his pocket. Yeah, a little computer chip. You know what I'm saying? That you record stuff on, music and movies and all that old kind of stuff, right? So Jay got stopped, and they popped him with it. When they popped him with it, they turned him over to Sergeant Smith. Oh, my God. And see, Sergeant Smith, he was on the D board. He dealt with all the disciplinary issues. So when Sergeant Smith heard word that Jay had been popped, he was on top of it. Now see, the administration, they don't know that Sergeant Smith and Jay in cahoots. They just know that they work in the same area because the man over the grievances is cool with Sergeant Smith that's over the D board, because sometimes when one of them is out, the other one will replace him and fill in for him. So Sergeant Smith, he got word to Jay for him to meet him in his office. So when Jay came to the office, he said, look, we can't have nothing disrupting what we're doing. So what you're going to have to do is give me somebody that I can take to the warden to get this thrown out. Because if I don't get this thrown out, you can't have this job. You'll lose this job. You can't have this kind of job and get caught up like you did. And plus, you're going to mess up the operation that we got going on. We're making a lot of money around here. So Jay tells him, all right, I got you. He said, I got somebody for you. He said, who is it? He said, this dude named David just got here. I just sold him a phone the other day. And he with it. He with it. He going to be doing a lot of things. He said, so okay, this is what we're going to do. He said, listen, give him a couple of days, a couple of weeks to get used to it. And we got to figure out his patterns and all this and that, right? Because when we get him busted, it's got to look generic, but the warden going to know it come from you. That information gonna come from you. I'm gonna make sure he knows that. That way he'll throw this out. But I'm finna go to him right now, and I'm finna tell him that you're working on something for me, and that it's gonna result in somebody getting popped with a phone, and he gonna accept that. He said, "Are you sure you'll be able to get this person? You know what I'm saying, in a position where we can get this phone?" He said, "No doubt about it." So Sergeant Smith, he went and he took care of his business, planted that seed in the warden's ear. That we got somebody with a phone, and I got somebody that just got caught up in a little trouble that may be able to put us on the guy with the phone, and we can get that off of this compound. And the warden was all for it. He said if he can get that taken care of, dismiss that right up from him, but tell him he don't get no more chances. Now, that was important because they always say that. See, Jay had been into everything, getting caught up every time he turns around in something. And he always weased it out of it. So now Jay, he goes to Ryan. And he tells Ryan, he said, look, I need you to figure out when this dude named David is out with this phone. Because I got to get the information on when he's going to have it so that I can turn that in, and then they can bump down on him and bust him so I can get out of this write-up. So Ryan, knowing the business, and they've done this before, he said, okay, I'll take care of it. He said, but I got to figure out how I'm going to get up under. So later that day, David was at the microwave. He cooking. He feeling good about himself now. He back in rotation. He got a phone. He done reached out to his dad, talking to all the guys, letting everybody know what was going on. Everything's straight. I'm back. I'm ready to get it. Let's do it. So David happened to be at the microwave when Ryan was at the microwave. See, Ryan be cooking all the time, right? So when he at the microwave, he whipping up some food and all this and that, right? So Ryan said, man, look here, man. Come on and taste this, man. I got this food over here. Now David looking at him like, man, I'm good. I don't even know you. And Ryan caught that. He said, man, my bad, man. He said, hey, my name is Ryan. I'm such. I'm from such. So he said, oh, what's up, man? How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. This, that, and the third, right? Little small talk conversation, right? He said, man, I be whipping it up. He said, I see you over there, smell good and all this and that. He said, I ain't doing nothing but making me some old raps over here, man, you know. He said, man, when I finish making these raps, I'm going to let you try one, man, you know what I'm saying? And let me know what you think, and then we can cook together sometime, you know what I mean? I'll be doing that's part of my hustle, right? And then David told him, he said, man, all right, I feel you on that, right? But, man, I just don't eat anything, man. You got to know how to cook, man. He said, man, when you finish eating one of these burritos, you going to know I'm cooking, man. He said, okay, then. So David, he go back to the cell. He ended up talking on the phone to his guy. He chilling, doing his thing and all this and that, right? He heard a knock at the door. It's Ryan. So he stood at the door. David looked over. He said, man, come on in. He walked in. He said, bless this house. He said, man, what's up, man? He said, here, try this. So Ryan put the burrito on the table. David raised up out the bunk. He said, all right, I get it, man. Appreciate you, man. Because he didn't want to raise all the way up and risk that Ryan would see the phone, the light on the phone, right? So Ryan stepped back out the cell. David gets on up, gets the burrito. He lifts it up. He smells it, throws it in the trash. He don't know him. I'm finna be eating no food from somebody I just met at the microwave. You tripping. Threw it in the trash. And he talking on the phone. He telling his girl laughing like, why come you just didn't tell him you didn't want it? He said, man, look here, some of these dudes around here, you don't never know how they gonna act. So I just played the role like it's cool and all this and that, right? He said, man, his girl said, man, you don't need to be doing that. Having these dudes thinking you straight with them and you really ain't. He said, that's part of the business in here. You got a shoo in here with the police and the inmates sometimes when you doing what I'm doing. He talking like he really got it going on. He know what's really happening, you know what I'm saying? And his gal, she listening to him like, you pitiful. But anyway, so now, David thinking that everything is smooth sailing for him. Now Ryan at the same time is thinking, yeah, okay, I'm in. So now he ain't gonna suspect a thing when I offer him another burrito or something like that to eat. You know what I'm saying? Because he took that one, but not knowing that David threw it away. But it don't matter at this point. He done made his way through the door. So here we go. So Ryan go back to Jay and he tell Jay, look here, man, I should be able to get him. You know, I was cooking, man, when he came up there, took him a burrito. He went on and ate the junk and all this and that, not knowing if he ate it or not, but that's what he telling Jay. You know, that's how people in here do. They exaggerate the things that they talking about. You feel me? So Jay was like, oh, okay, then we got him. So now we need to find out when he gonna have that joint in the room. So Ryan tell him, he said, man, I'm just gonna be watching and see. Because you know when people change up their behavior, that's usually when they doing something. He said, all right, stay on top of it, man. Because I ain't got that long to get this done. I got to get this done, man. If I don't get this done, it's going to bring down the whole operation. And then me, you, and Sada ain't going to be able to get this money like we've been getting around here for a couple of years. You feel me? So Ryan looked at him and said, I understand exactly what you're saying, man. I got this lane, man. I got this sucker. Now, they don't even know who David is. Because he ain't really letting nobody know, and all the brothers that he associate with, they live on the other end of the compound, and they keeping his identity on the low because he's one of them dudes that's got that spot. You understand what I'm saying? It's all about silence and secrecy with this thing, you feel? So they thinking that he's some kind of lame and don't understand this dude ain't somebody to be played with. He's known all over the state of being a hard hitter. So here we go. Next thing you know, David, he coming out, he talking, he get on the state phone, play his role for a minute, looking like he doing what he got to do. But he bumped back in the cell and he get back on that phone and he keep doing what he doing. So now Sergeant Smith bumped down and he tells Jay, I need you to come on with that next week. I need to know what's going on so I can let the warden know to make sure that he's still on board and everything is good. Is everything good? And Jay tell him everything is straight. I'll have that for you in a couple of days. All I got to do is get the information when he's there. He said, but y'all need to be ready to go when I tell you to go. Son Smith said, all you need to do is give me the call and let me know, and they going ASAP. But we need to be sure when we send them. You're only going to get one shot. And if you don't get it right, the warden going to flip you. He already done said it. See, and that's the pressure that they keep putting on you when you get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? They tell you better produce or you're going to get it. And Jay, because he's always into something, he was always keeping pressure on himself. But it always costs somebody else. And if you want to know how it's going to cost David, you're going to have to tune in to the next episode, right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all. I'm getting